Canals, mills and weaving, these have been part and parcel of Lancashire life for hundreds of years. In fact, the first mill for cleaning wool was built around here in the 13th century.
At that time, weaving was carried out by farmers to earn a little bit of extra cash. Other people did it at home to make extra clothes when they needed them, but it wasn't until the 17th century that people started to weave as a full-time job.
By the early 18th century, Burnley was an industrial town with a thriving wool trade, but it was still done at home and usually involving the entire family.
However, when cotton and mechanisation arrived, it brought about the end of the domestic weaving system. Machines like the spinning jenny, Arkwright's mule and, of course, the steam engine heralded the birth of the factory system.
Very quickly, Burnley and Lancashire as a whole became the weaving capital of the world.
By 1914, over 8 million yards of cotton were made each year in Lancashire. That's 65% of the world's cotton processed here in the region and then shipped back out again. And it was by far Britain's biggest export, and in every sense of the word, part of our national fabric.
At one time, this square mile of Burnley had hundreds of mills and over 100,000 looms. The population of the town was only 70,000. There was a lot of weaving going on.
As the 20th century moved on, other countries like India, China and the USA started to catch up, using newer machinery to make cheaper cloth. Britain failed to keep up and the industry went into an almost terminal decline. Sadly, there are very few working mills left today in Lancashire.
But in Burnley, there is one mill that's still weaving. John Spencer's, based in the same building for over 150 years, has been family run since the 1860s.
David, hello.
Hello, nice to see you.
David is the 6th generation of his family running the mill, but their start in weaving was far more humble.
My family, like many families, would have been weaving in cottages out in the country. And in the 1860s, with the Industrial Revolution started, they would have just rented half a dozen looms. Then as the business grew, they'd take on more looms and eventually would have enough looms to build their own weaving shed.
So basically started with nothing.
Started with nothing.
That's a good success story, isn't it?
It's been very difficult over the 30 years that I've been here to see the mills around closing, and it's been really quite distressing to see what's happened to what was once a great textile town.
Yeah, and I've been in many traditional mills that aren't working now, but I've not seen a contemporary one working. Can we go and have a look around?
Yeah, come and have a look.
Thanks. Well, it looks familiar. Lots of thread, lots of bobbin. It's very futuristic. But what's going on here?
Well, here we're making a warp, which is the threads that run down the length of the fabric.
Yeah.
So that's the first job that we have to make. So typical cloth might have 4,000 or 5,000 threads in the warp.
Gosh.
And we've got to take 4,000 or 5,000 threads off individual cones that you can see here.
Yeah.
And then run them all together, get the pattern right so that all the stripes are in the right place. And then we run those onto our warping machine here.
This is mesmerising. I mean, it really is so clever, but I guess it hasn't really changed, has it?
No, principles have been the same ever since somebody put 2 sticks between a tree and started to put threads backwards and forwards.
For me, that's the beauty of weaving. It's a relatively simple process. All of these long threads, called the warp, are put on a huge roller, ready to be woven. And this is where the magic happens. On the loom, another thread is passed to and fro, creating a weave, and the cloth is made. Before the 18th century, this was all done laboriously by hand.
Now, a key part of weaving during the Industrial Revolution was this, the flying shuttle, patented by John Kay in 1733. This enabled the weaver to work a lot faster. As that shot across, he could earn a lot more money. But even this is now obsolete today. That thread, that weft thread, is sent backwards and forwards by virtue of 2 gripping arms, like a crocodile, which catches the thread and moves it backwards and forwards. It is so clever and so quick. Just watch it go.
These looms are great for making plain cloth or fairly simple patterns. When it comes to weaving more intricate patterns, then David has to use a more complicated machine. This is it, the Jacquard loom, created in 1801 in France by Joseph-Marie Jacquard. And this is an intricate piece of kit.
On this machine, we can control every single thread across the whole width of the fabric. The Jacquard machine can lift and drop every thread at will, so that we can create a picture. This is a little bit of fun that we were having for you,
I see that.
for you today.
The Jacquard machine works on the same principle as the pianola, using pre-designed punch cards that a needle can drop through, creating a pattern. Some of the technology it uses is considered to be a precursor to the earliest computers.
Weaving is one of mankind's earliest craft skills. Woven fabric has been found that dates as far back as 9,000 years. It's an integral part of our lives. We all wear clothes that have been woven. Now, as fast and as amazing as these machines are, weaving hasn't really changed that much. It's still one thread passed over or under another thread. It's a timeless skill, it really is. It's a technique that just has not changed. And there's something very reassuring about that.